It says here that layoffs will become more and more common. Companies realize that they can do more with fewer employees. Here, check this out. It says that workers needed at S&P 500 companies to generate $1 million in revenue. And you can see here with this chart that since just before 1990, the amount of workers has decreased drastically to the point of which we are now today, where companies are becoming more and more efficient by utilizing technology, AI, and other forms of automated technology and computer integration to replace the worker. Additionally, President Biden himself shared this in a tweet on Twitter just a few hours ago that the last time the unemployment rate was this low, we had yet to set foot on the moon. Think about that. Together, we're building an America where everyone has a fair shot. His words, not mine, folks. Comment down below if you feel as though you have a fair shot in America today. And while we're on the subject of fair shot, and no pun intended, and making a lot of money by doing very small amounts of work, now Dr. Anthony Fauci is reportedly making $100K per public speaking engagement that he attends. And instead of this man being in prison, he's getting filthy rich off of his lies and deception, according to this shared Twitter post. That's some serious money right there. Sweet chunk of change. While we have CEO of Bank of America, Brian Moynihan, shown here, and we can see that layoffs are coming. Inflation is still too high. Job growth is a result of citizens having to hold multiple jobs as wages lag behind inflation, stating that Joe owns this recession. What do you guys think? But I posted up a video just yesterday where we were discussing how a Walmart worker had to wear multiple hats just to get by and still couldn't afford to pay their rent. Now, I feel as though that this is an accurate representation of a lot of people out there in the world today. Sad but true. But CEO of Bank of America, Brian Moynihan, tends to agree. And he says that he sees a mild recession in 2023 and is preparing for worse. So perhaps maybe we should do the same. Here, check this out.
Sort of the level of debt and things like that. I think the market loves stability, the economy loves stability, so we hope that at some point they resolve the technical issues, but they'll have a political discussion, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of discussion around the State of the Union tomorrow night about it.
But I remember when you and a bunch of the other bankers sent a letter in 2011 to Congress warning of how bad a default would be, and that was then, and look where we are now politically. Are you preparing Bank of America for a real possibility of a default?
Well, we have to be prepared for that, not only in this country, but in every other countries around the world. But you just hope it doesn't happen, but you can't. Hope's not a strategy, so you prepare for it. You get ready to make sure you have the liquidity, you have the setup. We have a lot of consumers who get paid by the government. We have to make sure that that's all set up for them, and the waivers on their payments and fees and things like that. That's what we do, as we do in a natural disaster or something else. And so I think, hopefully, you've heard both sides say that the idea is not to shut down the government. The idea is to have a strong discussion about the question of how high the debt should be. We had to put on a lot of debt in the last couple of years to overcome the pandemic drag on the economy, and administrations from both sides of the aisle, so to speak, did that. And now it's at some point we got to start to figure out how that works in the future. But right now, we got to get past the issues of just getting through the technical structure.
It sounds to me like you are, though, instilling some contingency plans, because this could happen.
Everybody has to.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think it's worth it to have a debt ceiling anymore?
Well,
this way with Congress in charge?
There's a lot of intellectual discussion about that, but because one side says if you approve the budget, why not approve the debt? The other side says it's a way to control spending, but it's a political process, and there's got to be an argument about how we make sure we live within our means as a country, and that argument's going to go on.
But do you think it's worth it? Do you believe? Because Janet Yellen has been trying to say maybe this shouldn't be in Congress's hands.
Well, I think Congress has the purse strings. That's whatever article it is. So I would be careful about trying to restructure the U.S. Constitution. It's been around for 250 years almost. I think we should leave it alone and make sure it operates correctly.
Meanwhile, if this problem continues to spiral out of control without any intervention from the current administration, 5 ways a federal debt default could hurt Americans. So folks, you're really going to want to pay attention to this one, as Americans are getting a crash course on the country's borrowing limit as a high-stakes standoff on Capitol Hill dominates national attention. Now, a recession is almost certain, according to this article headline here. Job seekers line up outside the New Hampshire Works Employment Security Job Center. As you can see, recession fears have already been on the rise for months as economists and lawmakers have paid close eye to the Federal Reserve's ongoing interest rate hikes in response to high inflation. But the latest threat of a drastic slowdown would rise exponentially if the nation were to default later this year, according to experts. And a New York University economics professor, Mark Gertler, explained that it would affect lending and borrowing and financial markets. The U.S. economy would also crater as it loses billions of dollars in federal spending that the government can no longer follow through on, including crucial Social Security and social safety net programs for millions of Americans. So honestly, folks, now is a terrible time if you're in need of loans, money, borrowing, credit, or any other variety of the sort. And it says that the federal benefits are in danger, as you can see here, and that no one is sure which obligations could fall to the wayside if the Treasury is unable to fulfill all of its financial duties. And this is Social Security, folks, that I'm talking about. And that doesn't mean everyone would get paid as well, including thousands of federal employees. They're at risk, as well as an interest rate spike, as multiple experts warned the nation could see higher interest rates on its debt as a result of a default. And it's like saying, well, the good news is your arm doesn't hurt anymore because we've amputated it. I'm not quite sure that that's good news, folks. As we brace for the stock market to take a drastic tumble, stock portfolios would take a serious hit if the nation defaulted on its debt, sapping retirement accounts, wiping people out, and draining crucial sources of revenue from major companies, which could affect employment, folks. You got to realize that a lot of these companies, these corporations, these businesses that you work for, they invest heavily in stocks to help them stay afloat and maintain their profitability. Their revenues drive their investments, their returns drive their sustainability and survival. Meanwhile, the stock market would fall hard, credit markets would tighten up, and then that restricts the flow of credit. And according to Bankrate.com's Greg McBride, an analyst at Bankrate.com, he also says that that's where the economic damage really comes into play. Folks, please beware. The CEO of America's second largest bank is preparing for possible U.S. debt default, and the consequences of this for many who don't quite make the enormous multi-million-dollar salary compensation package as Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan will likely suffer. Meanwhile, Bloomberg reports that Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan's total compensation has actually declined. Get this, folks, down 6.3% to $30 million for his work in 2022, a year in which profits tumbled and shares sank. So, folks, if you are paying attention out there and you are planning and preparing, this is not a time to be afraid, but perhaps maybe if you haven't already, go ahead and sign up for your Moomoo account, link in the description. Get free stocks because that's just free money. But if we see a huge dip, if we see a huge tumble in the stock market, you want to be ready to be able to take advantage of these opportunities to buy low.